Hey,
Hello and welcome, Kerry here from Healing Humanity, along with,
Mitch, old guy carnivore.
I apologize, I almost completely screwed this up, but I'm here now, and I'm happy to be here with my buddy Mitch. How's it going, Mitch?
Oh, it's going great, man. I always say
Mitch,
if I was any better, man, it would be illegal. There'd be a law against it. Yeah.
right?
How
I've
you
got no
doing?
complaints either, other than I need to figure out how to use a calendar. Mitch, you and I finally got to meet in person in Florida, and I think I scheduled this in Florida, and somehow I screwed my whole calendar up, and I was an hour off for like a week. So I wasn't going to show up to this call for another hour, and then Mitch called me and reminded me. So thank you for that.
Well, this is our third time together here,
Right.
and the last two times were at I think 7 year time, and you were just finishing a show in your theater, and both of those times you kind of skid into the seat, and the seat slid behind the thing, right exactly at the minute we needed to go live, and I was just waiting for the same thing to happen tonight.
Yeah, I got to get better at it. So normally I do live streams. We're at our movie theater. We'll do the big movie theater rush, and then I'll run down here and I'll do it. But something always comes up, like the projector's not working, or the lights aren't off, or someone's asking me a question or something. So I got to get better at it. But I'll tell you what, it was great, Mitch, meeting you out in Florida. That was a surprise. I think it was a surprise for you as well. It was a surprise for me. I didn't find out till the day before. That was Providence right there. We were filming for our documentary, and Dr. Nelson called me and said there's a meetup Friday at 11:30 in the morning, and I'm like, who the heck does a meetup on a Friday at 11:30 in the morning? But it happened to be right at the perfect time when we were done filming with Dr. Eden. We were driving to film with Dante Ferrigno, so it all worked out, and it was I don't know about you, but I'm kind of addicted to carnivore meetups. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I haven't done nearly as many of them as you. That was I've been to like two and a half of them. Half of them were Mike Seeley and his father and Mike's wife and myself. We met at that same restaurant for lunch one day. So that was kind of like a half a meetup. There was four of us. We just got together and had lunch. It was an unofficial thing, and then, but I did film it. I did film it and posted it, and then we had, I guess, a month and a half later. So we had a meetup at a Brazilian restaurant in Tampa, and I drove over to Tampa for that one, and and Kiltz came to that one. And we had a ball. We had 25, 30 people there, and we had a great time. And then, of course, the one where you showed up, and you talk about a surprise. I honestly didn't even know you were coming until 5 minutes before you showed up. And Nelson, Dr. Nelson Vasquez, he pulls me aside. He says, "Hey, Mitch, I'm going to tell you something, but don't tell anybody." And I'm waiting for him to tell me he's got terminal cancer or something. I mean, what the hell? How do you, what an introduction. I said, what? What? He said, Curry's coming. I said, Curry? Coming here today? Yeah, but don't tell anybody. And it wasn't a couple minutes later when you walked up. And you remember how I greeted you? Do you remember that?
I think you were like, "What the heck are you doing here?" Or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, because I love to bust on people, and I figured,
Right.
oh, this is my shot. I yelled out, and I looked at you sternly, and I says, "What the hell are you doing here?"
You know, you know why it was funny too, because so Dr. Nelson invited me the day before, and I'm like, "Yeah, awesome, this will work out." But then I went back to him and I said, "Are you sure it's?" Well, first of all, he said it's a carnivore meetup. And I'm like, awesome, I'm in. And in my head, I'm thinking, we're going to go to a park or something. This is Florida. We're going to meet at a park. I'm like, sure, I'll go. And then I committed to it and I said yes. And then I said, well, where is it? And he said it's at a Brazilian steakhouse. And I rolled my eyes because we had reservations for a different Brazilian steakhouse for dinner to meet Dante Ferrigno and his wife that night for the first time. So I'm a carnivore. I sucked it up. I did 2 Brazilian steakhouses that night, but I went back to Dr. Nelson and I said, "Are you sure this is okay if I'm even showing up?" I'm like, "This is a restaurant. Like, do we need reservations?" And he's like, "Nah, don't worry about it. It'll be fine." So
Yeah, it was a great surprise, and we had you there. We had Kiltz there. We had Dr. Nelson there, and even me, and the turnout wasn't really that great. I think we may have had 15 people, but it was such a ball. And you missed the best part of it, man. We all ran over afterwards to the cigar lounge, and we were there for 3 hours, sitting in recliners, just talking, and Peter and Jerry Voitush and Mark Booz. You met all those guys.
yes,
and
it was so nice meeting all of those guys. I wish I could have stayed for the cigars, because by the time you were 3 hours into the cigars, I was at my next Brazilian steakhouse.
Yeah, and listen, the president of Brazil called me shortly thereafter.
Really?
Yeah, he said, "Hey, listen, man, next time you talk to Kerry, make sure you thank him for our country for all the patronage."
Right. I was all Brazilian steakhouse out after that meal with Dante, though. I was
I'm
good for
telling
a
you.
little while.
Yeah, but that's fabulous, isn't it? What a way to go for a carnivore. Imagine
Yeah.
people who've never been to one of these, and I think that's most people. You sit down, they have a salad bar, but you're not interested in that. You sit down and basically they give you a little card, and on one side it says yes, and it's green, and on the other side it says no, and it's red, and they give you a little pair of tongs and a plate, knife, and fork. And then these guys start marching in with these huge skewers full of everything: picanha, ribeye, filet mignon, bacon wrapped chicken, sirloin, skirt steak. And they got a knife, and they walk. If they see your card is green, it means you want meat. So they come up behind you and they put the skewer down and they start cutting it, at which point the meat kind of flips off like this, and you reach up with your skewers and you grab it and you put it on your plate, and they just keep coming until you turn that card over. And I get spoiled, next day at my house, I sit down to dinner and I'm looking for the guys with the skewers.
Right? And if you're a real carnivore, you keep that card on green the whole time. You never.
Oh, yeah,
flip
we
that
never.
thing.
Well, but here's the amazing thing that a restaurant like that will teach you. If that was an all-you-can-eat spaghetti and pizza buffet, nobody'd ever leave.
Right.
They'd eat until they had to be wheeled out, on a gurney. But because it's meat and fat and nothing else, it's amazing. Nobody overate. Nobody ate to the point of discomfort. Nobody
Right.
stuffed themselves, and nobody walked out of there at all hungry. And what a difference it is when you're eating carbs or when you're eating protein and fat. A lot of people don't realize that, the difference in satiety that you feel. And we all knew when to stop. Nobody had to tell us. The
Right.
restaurant didn't tell us to stop. They would have kept. They were probably surprised we stopped as soon as we did.
Well, and then you're done and you feel fantastic. When I was done on the standard American diet, eating at some all-you-could-eat place, I always felt miserable afterwards, bloated and sick, and I got to go to bed, like barely able to keep my eyes open afterwards.
Oh, well, there's no doubt. There's no doubt about that. And every time we see something like that or experience something like that, it just proves we're on the right track. And
Yeah.
this is the way we're supposed to be doing it. But it was fun. It was fun. One of these days, I'd love to get up there to one of your meetups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to do it. We just had one here with Dr. That was why it was such an amazing opportunity for me as well, because it wasn't even 2 weeks prior. We had a meetup here in Montello at the movie theater, and Dr. Kiltz came out for that meetup. So I got to see Dr. Kiltz twice in 2 weeks. That was pretty awesome.
Well, the guy owns his own private jet. I mean, he's everywhere. He's everywhere.
He's a next level human. When he came up for this meetup, we were just going to stream him on the screen. I'm like, I don't want to take your time. And he's like, no, I'll come in. I'm like, you're going to come all the way to Wisconsin. That's incredible. And then I said, well, can I at least like pay for your flight or something? This is ridiculous. And he's like, I'm flying myself. I'm like,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, but he drove. He drove over from Sarasota, so he drove about 3 hours to get here.
Oh,
To get to
wow.
here, he didn't fly.
Isn't he incredible? Like I've met a lot of these good doctors. They're all awesome, but Dr. Kiltz is a next level. His energy is just
It's
incredible.
crazy. It's crazy, and he's the sweetest guy.
Yeah.
You just can't help but love him. He's. I don't know how any human being can be as positive about everything 100% of the time.
Right?
I mean, I have my moments. I'm sure you have yours.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he reserves like from 2:30 to 3:30 a.m. every day to walk out in front of his house and scream. But other than that, I mean, he's just a little dynamo, and what really surprised me is I'm taller than both of you guys.
Yeah. Right? That was the
Oh,
other thing
yeah.
you told me when we first met.
Yeah, I said, "Holy cow, I'm taller than you." And you know, it's really funny. Most of the people that meet me in person, the first thing they look at me and they say, "Wow, you're taller than I thought you were." And I'm not that tall. I'm like 5'10".
Right.
I'm like 5'10", which is about average, I guess.
You know, with Dr. Kiltz too, his energy, like he walks in a room and lights the whole room up. He's one of the people I've met. Two people that I think have been doing carnivore for about as long as he has, and they both have that crazy energy. So it gives me hope for the long-term sustainability of carnivore. Not that I had any worries, but I know two people that have been doing carnivore for like 10 or 15 years, Dr.
Yeah.
Kiltz and Dr. Lisa Wiedemann. And they
Yeah,
both
yeah.
have that same incredible, intense energy after 15 years of carnivore. It's kind of a testament to the long-term effects of doing carnivore, maybe, or it's just a coincidence. I don't know.
Well, Mike Seeley kind of does the legwork on these meetups, and he's a very active on YouTube. His channel name is United Carnivore, and his father lives over here in Melbourne with me, and his channel name, where his login name is Father of United Carnivore. And Mike called me and said that he's trying to put together a meetup in Miami on Black Friday. And I'm going to myself, holy God, who the hell wants to go out there in traffic on Black Friday? But the reason is Lisa Wiedemann is going to be returning Friday morning on a cruise ship into Miami. So he's trying to arrange a meetup, and we haven't talked about it yet. I'm letting him do it. I'm not doing it under the auspices of my channel, because I don't even know if I can make it down there. But I'm going to try, and I really won't know until that week whether I'll be able to. So I can't really commit myself. So I said, go ahead and do it. So we'll see, but keep a lookout for that. Kiltz is going to be there. Lisa Wiedemann will be there. 50-50 shot, I'll be there. There's a lot. We have a lot of my followers are down in Miami and Boca and places like that. So probably be a nice meetup. I just don't think that would be the best day to be going out, because all the shoppers will be out. They'll be jamming all the restaurants. I just don't know. I don't know, but we'll see.
Right.
But
do you have any plans of going to? There's another big one in Florida. I think it's a year from now. The Pack Your Health. I think it's in Florida next year.
The only ones of those convention type things that I've gone to is the Keto Orlando Summit, and they renamed it something else. They even took the word keto out of it. A year ago, it was in the first week in August, and a year ago, August, I went to my first one, and that was right exactly the time I started posting carnivore videos on my channel, which had previously been a drone channel. So about a year and 3-4 months ago, I met Ken Berry there and Nisha, and that was a great event. Big turnout. A lot of people were there, a lot of named speakers. The hallways were always full of people congregating and talking, and it was really worth going to. I had a great time. I just went as an nobody knew me. They didn't know me from YouTube. They didn't know me from anywhere yet. I had like 1 or 2 videos out. In fact, I asked Ken, I said, do I really need to do this, or are we overloaded with carnivore YouTubers already? And
I have a feeling I know what he says.
well, yeah, he basically really encouraged me, and he's given me a couple of shout outs along the way, but I've never tried to connect with him. I've never tried to, how YouTube is. You're the only big star, Kerry, that I know.
Well,
or that I connect with. Let's put it that way. And you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. I told you this in person. It's not flattery, but I've been watching your channel for a long time now. I'm trying to think. I'm almost 600 days on carnivore. I think you were one of the first I watched. I don't know. My problem is I got to get better at commenting, because oftentimes I'll watch it on TV, and so I can't comment. So I'm on there watching a lot, but where I may not be in the chat.
Well, I'm with you. In fact, I almost feel a little guilty because I'm not watching the chat at all here. And I do a lot of live streaming.
Yeah.
You know that. And
I've noticed lately, yeah, you're on there all the time. It's pretty awesome.
I do. Oh, and it's the greatest fun. And I wasn't doing it yet when we had our meetup here, because I've got 2-3 weeks now. I do 7 days a week, every morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. Morning coffee with Mitch. 1 hour. I set up out on my screen porch. I made a little portable studio, and I set it up every day out there. I've got a mixer. I've got a really good camera, use a notebook computer. I have it hardwired to the internet. There's not even any Wi-Fi involved. I mean, it's solid. I got a mic on another mic like this on a stand. And so we got great picture, great sound. And I've got an Ellen. And you met my Ellen.
Yes, I met her in person out here in Wisconsin.
I know you did. And I'm watching the chat go by, and Ellen is going crazy in there. And that's why I was going to say I don't feel guilty about ignoring the chat, because Ellen is in there entertaining everybody. Thank you, Ellen. God.
She's the sweetest, nicest person. It was really cool meeting her in person.
Yeah, and you have no idea how giving a person, I mean, how what a good heart she has. And she's enjoying the hell out of this too. And I keep telling her, listen, you're not obligated to do this every day. If you stop enjoying it, it won't hurt my feelings. And she talks me back into it. Oh, no, I love it. So it's worked out great. And you know what, when you have a sidekick in a live stream, it gives you somebody to bounce things off. And everybody's got some kind of a sidekick. Even Joe Rogan's got the tech guy in there with him that he's always, Jamie, yeah, he's always talking to him, bouncing things off of. And so it's great. It's great fun. And so I am going to take advantage of your stardom and big audience and ask any of your people that are watching me here, geez, if you get up in the morning and want to join a bunch of carnivores, it's been a big family, and believe it or not, I average 140, 150 people.
Nice. It's funny, Mitch, those numbers, they get deceiving after a while. Our movie theater above me is 140 seats. And when you physically see 140 people,
yeah,
that's a lot of people. When they're just this number on the internet, sometimes we don't think about it, but that's a lot of people.
It is, and it's growing, and it's the same crowd, the regular crowd. And this morning we must have had 10 new people I hadn't seen before. And it's becoming the most fun thing. Now, you don't get a ton of views. It doesn't make you any money like a good video that runs will, which I don't have much of anymore. But I'm having fun. I don't,
right.
So what? So I make less money. Half of almost nothing is still almost nothing. So what difference does it make?
Right.
I love it, and I invite anybody. 8:30 a.m. on the Old Guy Carnivore on my channel on YouTube, and stop in. We have a great time. I puff away on my cigar to see how many people I can get disgusted with me and say, I'm out of here and I'm unsubscribed. I get this. I get the comments. I puff on a cigar. It's what I do. I'm almost 78 years old, for God's sakes. I've been doing it
Let
all
him
my
have his
life.
cigar, people. Leave him
Yeah,
alone.
let me have a friggin' cigar. And I drink coffee too, and I'm a carnivore, and I catch hell for that. And I got to the point where I tell people, you don't like it, go away. Just leave me
Right.
alone. I don't tell you what to do. Stop being so frigging judgmental. And if you think that you can't take advice from me because I'm not healthy enough at my age, I'll match you any day of the week. So
Right.
I think the cigars, and so many people do, think that the relaxing, stress relieving benefits and not inhaling the smoke, just puffing. I've had doctors tell me it's a net positive. I think it's good for me. But you wouldn't believe the heat. I've probably lost 10,000 subscribers over the course of a year. People that have just basically gone away because I puff on a cigar. I'm not perfect enough for them. So I don't want people that demand perfection from people. You know, I want people that live and let live and enjoy the fact that I don't come on there and judge them. I try to help them. And you're the same way. I'm sure you're the same way.
I am. It drives me nuts. I feel like I need a disclaimer on my videos to tell people I'm not telling you what to do. You do you. I'll do what I want. If Mitch wants to smoke a cigar, let him smoke it. Like, I always tell people, actually, I shouldn't say people, but I've had this conversation with my daughters. I have triplets plus one, and I'm like, before you, talking to my daughter, should worry about what someone else is doing, like Mitch smoking a cigar, are you perfect yet? Are you perfect? Because until you're perfect, you probably shouldn't worry about trying to change other people.
Yeah,
that's my take on it anyways. But I get a lot of people on my channel too that'll say stuff like that. They think that I'm telling them what to do. I'm like, this is just what's working for me. If you want to do something else, you could do something else. I don't care.
I have that disclaimer. I actually have it in writing. I basically say I'm not a doctor, and I don't want to be one.
Thank goodness.
I don't give medical advice. I don't give individual medical advice. People don't come to me with their blood test numbers and all that other stuff. What do you think of this? I don't want that. I'm not not that I'm not qualified. I know how to interpret those numbers and read the numbers. You know, I understand all that stuff. But the last thing in the world I'm going to do is expose myself to some legal liability in some public forum telling somebody to stop the medicine his doctor prescribed. You know, no. So I say in my disclaimer very simply, and this is it. I say, I can't give you advice. I don't tell you what to do. I tell you what I've learned, what I do for myself, and what works, and what has worked. And then if you want to do what I do, that's up to you. And that's
free world, right?
That's all I say. Yeah. But boy, people are so judgmental, and I think it may be getting worse out there. I'd rather they just not watch me.
I have a similar disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I barely graduated high school. I'm an individual. These are my individual experiences. Do what you want. On the flip side, though, of not being a doctor and not giving expert advice, one very interesting thing is I talked to you a little bit. I asked you a question when we met at the meetup, Mitch. You are actually helping inspire people to heal and find healing. Even people saying, Mitch, you saved my life. Your videos have. Where there's other doctors that have worked their whole lives and have never done something like that. So that's pretty incredible.
I think so. And that's why Ken Berry gave up his clinical practice, because he finally woke up one day, a 290-something pound, almost diabetic, and said, time out.
Yep.
I'm following the advice that I'm giving all my fat, sick patients. What's wrong with this picture? And he had the guts. He had the guts to do something. Most doctors don't have the guts to do it. They got the Porsche and its associated monthly payment of $18,000. They you know what I'm saying. They have tremendous debt, tremendous overhead. They got insurance costs out the wazoo. Malpractice insurance, crazy what they have to pay, and they're afraid. They're afraid. They can't cut back. They have to see a patient every 5 minutes.
Yeah. I always give it up for the good doctors, especially Dr. Berry, because that's how I ended up ultimately committing to carnivore, was a Dr. Berry video. But I always think, like, it's really hard for individuals to do carnivore. you and I, it's easy because we've been doing it for so long, but that making that change is really scary because it goes against the grain of everything we've ever been told. Well, then I take a step back and I think, imagine being like a Dr. Barry, where you're going against the grain of all of your colleagues and you potentially get into trouble and you're really setting yourself aside doing it. So I give those guys a lot of credit. I really don't know if I would have started carnivore if not for those doctors. I saw a bunch of individuals talking about it, but I've since changed my mindset. But prior to that, I put all of my foolish trust in doctors because I believed they were so smart and they knew everything. So I felt like I needed a doctor's reassurance to start carnivore. So I thank goodness for Dr. Barry being out of there. I probably watched 1,000 of that guy's videos before I eventually started carnivore.
I think most of us took that same path, and it's really ironic when you stop to think about it. They all run around, all these doctors out there. I'm not talking about Ken Berry, talking about the majority of doctors. And they look down at their noses. Most of them are egotistical, white coat, stethoscope wearing, arrogant, holier than thou. And they proudly proclaim, what do you know? Did you go to medical school? I went to medical school. And I look at these guys, and I'll tell you, these doctors do not. I'm older than most of them. I've been richer than most of them a few times in my life. And I don't take any crap from them. And I look them right in the face. And I say, what I know, my friend, they don't teach in medical school. I said, I know that. And I said this to this last urologist I visited when I passed my kidney stone, which I passed, by the way. I had that kidney. Remember, I had it there. I'm still trying to pass it. Yeah, I actually passed the thing. It was, I have it here. I named it. My daughter named it Fred.
Fred?
Yeah, as in like Fred Flintstone, you know. And I've shown everybody pictures of it. And what happened the next, a day or a day and a half later, I passed another one.
Oh my goodness!
I had 8 stones, but I got a twofer out of the deal, and I didn't even know the second one was much smaller. I didn't even know that was fallen. So from 8 original kidney stones that I've had for 10 years, from being healthy, from eating according to all the superfoods, from consuming mass quantities of spinach, almonds, dark chocolate, all the hugely high oxalate foods, I got kidney stones. I mean, 8 of them, and I've had them, and stopping eating any plants. And I've been at it a little longer than you, not much. I've been at it for 2 years and 4 months now. I don't count days, but 2 years and 4 months. I have, according to the scan that I got when I went to the hospital because I was passing this one. And I haven't taken a prescription drug in over 2 years, but I sure as hell took that pain pill they gave me. Any of you ever had a kidney stone will understand what I'm saying. Well, I don't take prescriptions. Well, here's a pain pill, sir. Give me, you know. And God, it was great. They gave me a cocktail of pills. They gave me oxycodone, and then a very, very strong non-steroidal and an NSAID. And God, did they work. But I only took them for a few days, and I still have most of them because I have 2 small kidney stones in one kidney, and I have a whopper, the Rock of Gibraltar, still in my left kidney, which is probably, I'll never pass it by myself. They're going to need to bust it up, lithotripsy
right,
or something like that. But he said, don't worry about it till you start feeling something. Because they've been so big, they were just sitting there all this time. They couldn't have been doing my kidneys much good, full of stones. But and it's funny because I got so much love from all of my followers while I was suffering through this kidney stone. So much advice, so many remedies, and most people miss the point. I don't need to learn how to not get kidney stones. I know that. And I'm getting rid of mine. I just need to getting rid of the last few. I'll never get another kidney stone, not on the carnivore diet. So, but you know, but how do you certainly don't want to find fault with people that are trying to give you, that want to help you. I love
Right.
them. I love them all.
As long as they're not saying, "Oh, Mitch, you got this from the carnivore diet," when clearly it was there before the carnivore diet. That's one of the frustrating things when things like that happen. Those kidney stones, I had 2 of those about 10 years ago, and I don't know how you went to that dinner, Mitch, or that lunch. That was the worst pain in my entire life, and I've had some serious pain issues throughout my life. I had my appendix burst on an operating table.
Holy
Kidney
cow.
stone was worse than that. I had a construction accident once where a little sliver of metal went into my eyeball. It went all the way through my eye to the back of my eye, and I had to have surgery on it. The kidney stone was worse than that. And the last thing I'll say is my wife delivered triplets, and she also had a kidney stone, and she said the kidney stone was more painful than delivering the triplets. Like, I think it's one of the most painful things to go through.
It is.
And you were talking about the pain medicine. So I remember this moment vividly. I went into the emergency room for, I think it was my second kidney stone. And it was the most worst pain of my entire life. And they gave me an IV of pain medicine. I don't remember what it was, but it was good. I was sitting there, and I'm not even joking. I was sitting here like this. I was almost shaking. It hurt so bad. And that medicine went in me, and a tear just came down, a tear of just pure joy, because I finally had some relief from that unrelenting pain.
I remember that feeling. The pain for me, the first one I passed was like 9 or 10 years ago, and the pain came in waves. It would back off a little bit. Okay, so, but when anybody asks me to describe the pain, it didn't sound pretty, but the only way I could describe it, I could say fetal position, laying on the kitchen floor, puking your guts out in the most excruciating pain that you can imagine, and no way to stop it.
Yep.
And your stomach, it hits your stomach, it hits your groin. It feels like somebody's got your gonads clamped in a vice. I mean,
Yep.
It is the most excruciating pain. But then it backs off a little bit. And it happens because some of these kidney stones are calcium oxalate ones, are spiny little suckers. And they're trying to get down that ureter, and they grab on inside the ureter, and that's when it hurts. When the further down and the further away from the kidney they get, the less the pain will be. The greatest pain is up closest to the kidney. And that ureter is an average of about 10 inches long. This thing's got a journey to go on. So they finally had to go in and get that first one. I went back to, they gave me, when I first went in, they didn't give me an intravenous. They shot it into the catheter they stuck in my arm. They gave me Dilaudid, and that's probably what they gave you too.
That's what it was.
Yeah, Dilaudid it's like, oh God, I'm in pain. Oh wow.
Yeah,
oh wow.
Exactly what
wow,
it was.
Man. Give me some more of that,
I wanted to marry the nurse. I was just like, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You can feel it felt cold. You can almost feel the cold going up in through your veins, and it's incredible. No wonder people become addicted to these kind of drugs.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I remember when I had the kidney stone too, just thinking, just like praying, and like, I took for granted what it feels like not to be in this much pain. For 1 second, I don't want to be in this much pain. Like I was like my whole life before the kidney stone. I just kept thinking that over and over again.
Yeah,
I'm never going to take it for granted not being in this incredible pain anymore.
And you know how if a woman argues with you, and I heard somebody say that, and I thought it was funny, and funny in a weird way, but funny. The argument between a woman and a man, a woman who's never had a kidney stone but gave natural childbirth, and a man who passed a kidney stone. Two of them trying to argue who was in the worst pain. And here's the answer to that argument. Women will come back and have another baby. No man under any circumstances would volunteer to have another kidney stone.
Right.
Period.
That's very true.
Yeah. So, but to have your wife say, who had both, to say, was your wife, right? You
Yeah.
said she had both, and say that the kidney stone is worse. It's probably a different kind of pain, and well, of course it must be. At any rate, I'm still not done with those, but I got a twofer, and I thought maybe the stone had broken, and what I actually saw were were halves. But the second stone was not a piece of the first. The first was a 6 millimeter stone that was actually whole.
Ah.
Actually whole, and I don't think most people can even begin. I have my kidney stone. Its birthday was October 28th. I wrote it on here, and without losing it, I'm going to unwrap it here. Bear with me, and I'm going to hold up the bigger of these two stones in my finger. Okay.
Oh man.
I mean, look at that thing. That's it. See that little black stone?
Ah.
I mean, that's it. That's tiny, tiny little thing, about 1/8 of an inch across. That can cause a human being so much agony is crazy. It's nuts. And it's the fault of the Seventh-day Adventists. Sorry, guys. They're the ones that want us to eat all these friggin' vegetables.
Right.
And still want us to eat all these vegetables. And they're still pushing spinach, how healthy it is. Don't eat it. For God's sakes, juice it. You can
Right.
get 10 times more poison that way. Why would you eat it when you can get 10 times the poison by juicing it? You notice I don't have any hair. It's because I pulled it out long ago in frustration. Right? Yeah. It's crazy.
If anyone needs encouragement not to cheat on carnivore, basically when you're cheating on carnivore, even if you're not eating straight up spinach or plants, it's all plant-based. If it's in a box or a bag, it's plants. That's all I need to think about is that kidney stone that Mitch just held up there. You want one of those? Is that worth it?
Yeah, and even this doctor, I went to see this doctor. I never saw him before. He had no personality. He was okay. I think he was probably competent. But he treated me like a piece of meat. I mean, you wouldn't even think I was a person. He hardly even ever looked at me. He comes walking in the room. He's got my paperwork from the hospital because the hospital referred me to him. They said you need to do a follow-up visit with the urologist in 2 to 3 days. I said, and they said, there's one on this piece of paper. So I call their office, and the receptionist answers. I said, well, just got out of the emergency room yesterday. They said I need to follow up on passing a kidney stone. Well, we're sorry. The doctor can't see any new patients for 3 or 4 months. I said, well, that's not, they gave me his name, and they said to follow up with him in 2 to 3 days. Hold on. So she comes back. She says, well, we have a cancellation next Thursday. That's 9 days away. Okay. I'm hoping I'll get rid of this thing in a week. They told me it would take a week or two to pass it. I had about a 50-50 chance of passing it. That's what the doctor in the hospital. He was a great guy. I mean, he was good. He was friendly. He knew his stuff. I was wanting to ask him, what did he do to get busted down to emergency room duty? Because obviously he was older, and you usually find the wet behind the ear doctors working in the emergency rooms. But he was very competent, and they took great care of me in the emergency room. Kerry, wow, I got to tell you, 2 hours and 15 minutes, start to finish.
Wow.
I walked in the door, and 2 hours and 15 minutes later, I was walking out with 3 prescriptions for pain pills, and having had a CT scan, having it read. Now, you may ask yourself, what makes you so special, Mitch? The last time I went to the emergency room, I sat for 16 hours.
I was just going to say that exact same thing.
I knew you were. See, we would be a great comedy act. We could play right off each other. At any rate, they would say, what makes you so special? How the hell did you pull that off? And my answer to them would be, well, Maybe it's the fact that my son is on the board of directors of that hospital.
Nice. Had to be something. You had to have him in.
I gotta tell you, man, he called ahead. I'm bringing my father, and he called it's a whole chain of hospitals down here, and it's a great hospital too. And it's when I had my brain surgery, that's the hospital he took me to, where they helicoptered me over to the other guy's hospital because that's where the big neurosurgery was. But this hospital is pretty much the closest one to my house too. So he came and got me. And once you've had a kidney stone, one's coming. You can tell. It's not a surprise anymore. It starts with a dull ache in your kidney, and then it gets worse, and then all of a sudden your stomach hurts a little bit, your abdomen muscles, and then your groin starts hurting. And I fortunately never made it to the point of the fetal position, writhing on the tile floor, vomiting, and pain. I managed to escape that this time. And these pain pills they gave me in combination were almost as good as the Dilaudid, and they lasted like 8 to 12 hours.
I wonder if they were stronger for you on carnivore. Like our chemistry changes a little bit. You're not eating all the standard American diet and putting all that other stuff in there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think definitely they work better, because we're not. It's like somebody when they don't drink and they have their first drink, they'll get drunk on their ass, and because you haven't built up a tolerance to these pain pills. People that continue to take a lot of medication build up tolerances to these things. But I think it was Ketorolac, I think was the name of the other one. It began with keto, Keto.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Gotta work.
And then the oxycodone with acetaminophen. And the combination of those two pills worked 10 minutes.
Wow.
And I was completely pain-free. Not only completely pain-free, but high as a friggin' kite. Happy. I was having a ball in there. And when we went to the CT, get the CAT scan, something happened to me in a hospital that has never happened to me before, and really took me by surprise. The little girl comes in to take me down there, and she looks at me. She says, "You okay to walk? Have you ever walked to any procedure in a hospital and not been wheeled on a gurney or a wheelchair? They won't even let you walk out of the friggin' hospital when they discharge you." She says, "You okay to walk?" I said, "Yeah, just stay close in case I start weaving a little bit, because I'm higher than a kite on that oxy." And we walked down there. They took the CT scan, and the doctor comes in and proudly pronounces, "Well, you got a kidney stone, about 6 millimeters." And I wasn't surprised. I knew exactly. Once you've been through it, you know exactly what it is.
Yeah, that dread hangs over your head, just waiting for that little twinge of pain.
And then he says, "Well, it's 6 millimeters. There's about a 50% chance you might pass it, probably in a week or two. And just follow up. Have a nice night." And 2 hours and 15 minutes, a record-breaking visit to an emergency room where you actually had to have imaging done as well. It was crazy. Yeah.
I mentioned this earlier, but I went into the emergency room once for what I thought was my second kidney stone. And it wasn't. It was my appendix. And I sat in the emergency room for, I think, 6 or 7 hours. They finally got me in. And like I mentioned earlier, got me on the operating room table, and my appendix burst on the operating room table.
Wow.
And so the simple procedure that it should have been to remove the appendix turned into this huge, like, multi-hour procedure because they had to clean it all out. And there's a good chance if that happens, just if I'm at home or something, you could die from having your appendix burst. But in retrospect, I'm thinking about it now. I sat for 6 hours in that emergency room. Had they got me in there in 2 hours, it would have been just fine. But I had another kidney stone after the appendix. My second kidney stone. I remember going to the emergency room. I sat there for a couple hours, just agonizing pain, and there was like no one else there. I went up to the receptionist person and I said, "If you don't get me back there now, I'm going to walk out into the parking lot and I'm going to lay down on the ground and I'm going to call an ambulance, because then they'll get me in." Like, what else? I can't sit here anymore. Like, that kind of pain is just unbearable.
The best news about this hospital visit was I wasn't there long enough for them to try and feed me. because
Yes.
they absolutely try to kill you when they feed you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Here's your sugar. Here's your here's your breakfast
Yeah.
of 100%. They tried to do that when I had my brain surgery.
Here's your insure.
Here's your Ensure. Yeah, they get you coming and going. I did a video about that. I talked about the Ensure is just chocolate flavored baby formula. It's the same stuff.
With seed oils and garbage. in
Yeah,
it.
seed oils and sugars. There's no doubt, Curry, that it's not an accident that they're addicting children before they're 6 months old to a lifetime of sugar addiction. And when you watch my videos, I tell people things they don't want to hear, which is probably why I don't grow hugely big. And I understand that.
I think that's why we're carnivore brothers. Because when you say that stuff, I'm like, you're absolutely right. Getting kids addicted to sugar from a young age, it should be criminal. Like history is going to look back at us like, what the hell were we doing? This is kids. These are little kids and children. I interviewed a doctor this morning. His name is Dr. Suresh. It's not live yet, but he was saying this. I heard someone else say it, but it really struck me. He's like, think about babies, and when you feed them broccoli or vegetables, they're in disgust. They spit it out of instinct. That's their instinct.
Well, that's what our taste.
I'm like, what other instinct does a baby have that's wrong? There's like none. The baby doesn't have any instincts that are wrong. So it eats these vegetables, it spits it out. Yet you give it meat, and it just devours it. It loves the meat, but.
Well, look at your dog. Look at your dog.
Yeah.
And the ironic part is, you had a big steak, right? So you got scraps left. And you throw it to your dog dives on it like it's the first food he's seen in a month, and you feel guilty because you feel like you're clogging up, you're giving your dog food that's bad for him because everybody knows how bad meat is.
Yeah.
So while you feel like you're doing your dog a disservice and Fido, you should be eating kibble, your dog is going, it's about friggin' time. This is what I'm supposed to eat. Well, babies, we're born with that. A lot of people don't think about things in those terms. And this is stuff I love to talk about. The science of it, the physiology of it, the evolutionary biology of it, how these different things that we experience came to be. None of it's an accident. Our taste buds our taste is our first defense against poisoning ourselves. How did we learn to differentiate poison from good food? Well, if it didn't kill you long enough, it joined the list of foods that had an enjoyable taste. Anything else that is bitter to us and tastes bad, we want to spit it out. That's our body's natural response to poison, and that's what our taste is for. I mean, that's the purpose of taste buds. It's like these rich guys, they always send somebody else in to eat a bite of the food first and see if they die, the canary in the coal mine kind of thing. Well, that's what our taste buds and our sense of smell do for us. So when something tastes rancid or tastes bad, we know it. We know it because we have a library, a database, not only of every image and face we've ever seen, but the wave shape of every sound we've ever heard and every voice we've ever heard. But we have libraries of different tastes and things that we can equate with good, bad, or some other thing that is either going to help us or kill us. And we have to just observe babies, and they do the right thing instinctually. So does every other animal on the planet, except humans, who are too smart for their own good most of the time.
Right. Yeah, it's incredible. What's incredible to me, I've realized recently too, is just how humans continue to try to outsmart Mother Nature over and over again. And it never works. We never outsmart Mother Nature. It's like, just do what the baby instinctually does. Just do what the human body should naturally do. But we're always trying to game it or outmaneuver it. And I can't think of one instance where we've outsmarted Mother Nature and it's worked, yet we continue to try over and over again. And like you said, we're the only species out of millions of species on this planet that are doing that. And we're sicker than every other species on this
Well,
planet. Every other species
of course
is fine.
we are, but but somebody's making money on it. See,
Yeah.
that's where this all comes from, is the corruption and the quest for power and money, and the lack of conscience. You know, we have too many bad people in this world that
Right.
put themselves in front of everybody else and don't care what damage they leave in their path, and there's too much of it, and it's everywhere. And it's
think that can be,
disgusting, but what are you going to do?
Right. I think that can be a turning point, maybe for some people, though, when you think about or reframe things. Because I used to be, when I was on standard American diet, oh, whatever, it's not so bad. Oh, I just like my food too much. But when you start to have that realization that there's somebody out there whose wallet is getting thicker and thicker as you're getting sicker and sicker at the expense of your health and shortening your life, other people are making money off of that. How does that make you feel? I think when you reframe it that way, maybe that'll open some people's eyes a little bit more. But it's so hard. There's some people that are just so far gone and so far addicted that you just can't. They're getting limbs chopped off, and they won't stop their ways.
No, and that's the power of addiction. And I beat that one to death on my channel, and I'm not going to stop. That's my main. That's what I have. I mean, I got a few, halfway fun recipes that you can make quick. I can tell everybody, well, eat meat. Carnivore is so simple. It's tough to keep making videos because there's not really too much of a message. Here's what you can eat. Here's when we think you should eat it. And you shouldn't eat this, that, and the other thing. Have a nice life. Well, what am I going to talk about tomorrow?
Right.
But if you take a deep dive, I think, into the real causes of why everybody behaves in a way that you wouldn't think is logical, as if they're being controlled by something outside themselves, like a puppet. And when you look at, and I try to use analogies and things to point out to people that this is a real thing, and that our main problem, even though we don't talk about it, you might hear lip service paid to it occasionally, and my viewers, they hear it all the time, but they're not tired of it because they finally learned that it is really the problem. And the problem is addictions, carb addiction. And it's easy to say. It's easy to say. But nobody has defined yet, that I've seen anywhere, the absolute scope and effects of, I would say, 80% of the human beings in the Western world are carb addicted to the point where they are out of control. And I did a video the other day, and I came out, I say outrageous things in my videos sometimes, just for shock value, but they're real. And I said, the reason that you're here now, and most of my viewers are older, they're 60, 50, 60, 70 years, in that range. They're still trying to lose weight. Like me, they've been doing it all their lives. You're a carb addict.
Yep.
Carb addiction, like any other addiction, takes away your free will. It takes it away, shuts it off, takes it away. Now, when you say free will, you usually hear that in connection to religion, but I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about being able to control yourself or think you're controlling yourself. And it's so obvious to me that I don't care how many people protest about how strong I'm strong. They call it willpower. I'm strong. When I make up my mind to do something, by God, I'm going to do it. Nothing's going to keep me from doing something I set my mind to. And I've heard this 10 times, 20 times from people that I've tried to help start their carnivore diet. They last 3 days. And then I don't hear from them. They're embarrassed because they are not in control. Their addiction is control. And their addiction has the ability to shut off and manipulate your prefrontal cortex. And there's a reason why it has that ability. Because if it didn't have that ability, none of our cavemen would ever have gone out to hunt, because they knew that their chances of getting killed on these hunts was very high, and they would have all found some excuse to stay home. But the urge and the need to hunt and eat was so great that the subconscious mind basically gave us a mechanism to negotiate with ourselves and make deals with ourselves. And that's what that is. So, and I use it as an example. When you mindlessly wander up to the pantry, and anybody, I tell people, anybody who hasn't done this many times in their life, go away. You don't need me. You don't have a problem. How many times do you find yourself standing in front of the refrigerator or the pantry between meals and trying to decide what you're going to eat? Grab something that's, you're on a diet. I don't want to eat this stuff. I promised myself yesterday I wasn't going to eat this stuff again. I promised myself yesterday that this was going to be the last time, and tomorrow I was going to get serious. Yet, here I am. How the hell did I get here? Standing in front of this pantry, grabbing a box of cookies that's going to lead to a binge and take me right back to where I was a couple weeks ago when I said, I promised myself I'm going to start the diet seriously this time. And I've been doing this. I did it for 50, 60 years. I don't know how I know you didn't do it, but that was the story of my life. Yep. And it finally dawned on me that as arrogant as I am and as strong-willed as I thought I was and as good a businessman and a realist that I was not in charge. I was not in charge. I was an addict. So here's what happens now. And this is the reason why everybody gets all excited about all this, what they call big change coming. Oh, we got RFK Jr. and he's up there, and we're not talking politics tonight. We're taking a break from that. But we got them, and they're going to get in, and hopefully, and we're gonna fire all the people in the FDA and the USDA, and we're gonna let the American public know that they're being poisoned, and we're gonna change everything. And somebody asked me a question in the comments on one of my videos. How optimistic are you that things will get better? Do you think that people will stop eating carbs and turn to low carb diets like carnivore? I said, no, they won't. Well, but they don't know it's bad for them, but they're going to learn how bad it is. What doesn't matter. I mean, this sounds depressing, but it's true. Doesn't matter. Well, why not? I said, because they're not in charge. They already have the desire to get thin. They already have the desire to lose weight. They have already started a diet 30 times in their life. They know that eating that stuff, you show me the person that doesn't know that eating a gallon of ice cream every day is going to make them fat. You know that. We know all that. We may not know about the plant poisons and things, but still. No, they're addicts. And the thing that defines an addict is that reason and reality, truth and logic don't matter. Just give me the shit that I want. That's all I care about. I want my drug. I don't care. I know it's bad for me. You think I don't know it's bad for me? You think I don't know it's going to shorten my life? You think I don't know I'm going broke spending all this money on these drugs or alcohol? You think you found me here living in a tent in a homeless camp? You think I don't know all that already? Give me a drink. I need a drink. That's addiction.
Right.
And logic and education will not cure addiction. There are ways to treat addictions, okay? But these treatments, the recidivism rates are incredibly high. Most people who kick alcohol will fall off the wagon because it requires complete abstinence for life. Once you kick an addiction, that means you can't go back. And that's the problem with dieting. And it took me so many years. And that's why I harp on this on my channel over and over and over, because it's the real answer if you really want to fix it. If you just want to put it off for a little while, Leave your addiction in charge. You know, you'll spend the rest of your life yo-yoing, and you'll work hard at it, and you'll always feel deprived and hungry. And it wasn't until, and you can back me up on this, Kerry, it wasn't until we became carnivores that and actually felt the difference, and the addictions and the cravings go away, and realize what it's like to live without the cravings. Doesn't mean we're still not addicts. We can't eat that stuff. There's no cheating. There's no cheat days. For most of us, we would be like that alcoholic having a drink after 5 years sober. We'll be right back on the bottle again. But
Yep.
you don't want it. You're not suffering. You're not feeling deprived. You're not yearning for it. You're not envious of all those people eating it. It changes your physiology.
Right.
Your brain learns.
I'm with you 100%. Everything you just said. That's the biggest truth. It took me forever to figure that out, but that everyone needs to understand. I yo-yoed for so many years, and I never realized why. And it's because I'm addicted. It's exactly like you said. And I would lose a little weight on keto, and then I'd go back to moderation like an alcoholic. I'm going to have a little bit of beer. That's not going to work. You have to abstain from it. The thing that's crazy, though, you kind of mentioned this, Mitch, it's like the majority of humanity, it's almost like a mass psychosis. They're all addicted, but nobody admits it. And what do they say? Like when you want to overcome an addiction, the first step is admitting you're actually addicted. And most people are like, it's not that bad. I could stop whenever I want. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But the reality is they're all addicted. And the reason I knew carnivore was the right way, the natural way, the proper way is because all those other diets, it felt unnatural. It felt like I'm just suffering a little bit to lose 20 pounds, and then I'm going to go back to moderation. But carnivore never felt forced or unnatural like those other ones did once I got over that sugar addiction. The addiction's still there, though, like you said. If I went and ate a donut right now, I'd be in trouble. But, yeah, admitting that, I think, is so huge. That is the reason for think of all of the heartache and suffering from yo-yo dieting. You've done it, Mitch. I've done it.
Oh, hell
I remember
yeah.
once on keto. I think I lost like 60 pounds. My wife lost a whole bunch of weight. We took a picture next to each other, and I remember saying, I will never gain that weight back. And it was so hard losing that weight, way harder than on carnivore, because I was doing dirty keto and I was trying to exercise. I was doing it all wrong. It was months and months of just suffering to lose all of that weight. I'm like, I'm never gonna gain that weight back. And it was about 4 months later, gained all the weight back and then some, because I tried to moderate my addiction, going back to carbs or keto or whatever. Did that over and over again for so many years. And it's all exactly like what you said. I was addicted. I was trying to moderate an addiction. Never going to work. I love what you said too about free will, because that is so true. When you have an addiction, it steals your free will. And it's like, you're making decisions in your life. You're going on a path, but every decision is driven by that addiction to the sugar in one way or another, whether you realize it or not. And I could see it more clearly now, because before it was, what are we going to eat next? What's for dinner? What's for dessert? We're going on a holiday. Food. And when you get over that, you have none of that. It's really, really liberating having like no addictions, which is, I think on carnivore, it's the first time in my life there's nothing. There's no addictions. That's how every other species is, and that's how humans should be. But most humans will never. They're never going to experience
that. We're not going to be that way. Understanding why we get addicted to sugar goes a long way, and I have many videos I explain this, and it's a lengthy explanation. I'm not going to go into it here. Most of the people who follow me already have heard it. They know it, and but there is an absolute root cause of some little San Pellegrino, man, mineral water. Yeah, same. So there's an absolute reason why a sugar addiction goes back to the most ancient of our ancestors, because of the role that sugar played as the survival food that we scrounged for when the hunt failed, and it was either find something to sustain you for a short period of time until the hunt was successful again, or starve to death. It was a survival thing. And we developed the pathways to metabolize that sugar for those times when we needed it. And that happens so often that we became hybrid animals. We became hybrids. We can run on two different kinds of fuel, fat or sugar. The sugar is the survival food. It wasn't as plentiful, certainly as plentiful as the meat and fat. We had all these big, fat, hairy animals running around to kill and eat. But we had to scrounge for what few. And there were, we didn't have a produce department in Publix back in the caveman days, or 1 million or 2 million years ago in our earliest human ancestors. But there were times when they needed survival food. And that became an urge, and as almost as important as our urge to survive and reproduce. And the mechanisms to make sure that we pulled it off became firmly rooted in the instructions that are in our programming that we get passed on from generation to generation and improves. But we still have all of those ancient urges, all those ancient programs, which is why, the strongest, one of the strongest drives that human animals feel is the same drive any animal feels, the sex drive to reproduce. We do stupid shit in the name of sex drive. We do things that, in retrospect, we have ourselves saying, well, what was I thinking? Well, you weren't thinking again. Your subconscious turned off that conscious part of your brain, and you negotiated with yourself. And we do that. We negotiate. And if people don't understand what I mean by negotiating with yourself, I'll set up a scenario for you that shows you just how little control that you have. Count the number of times, having been on a diet, made the promise that you're not going to eat that stuff, you're serious this time, you're on your way to the store to buy some ice cream again. Had a bad day, stressed out. You just need it. It feels good. It's a drug. It just, I need that. Okay. And you get to the store and you still don't want to buy it. You're ashamed of yourself, but not that much. So you start negotiating with yourself. You start making deals. Well, you say, okay, just this last time.
One last
That's
time.
it. I swear. It's going to be so good. So just this last time. Come on. For the rest of my life, I'm going to be. And we do this over and over and over and forget about the fact that we're breaking the promise we made to ourselves 2 days ago. That's negotiating. And we come up with the lamest of excuses. And we accept those lame excuses, because our addiction wants it, but it wants it for a reason when it comes to sugar. It doesn't just want it because it feels good. It feels good because way back then, if we didn't get it, we were dead. And we still have that same programming.
Right.
So where your dopamine and serotonin responses flood you with that pleasurable feeling, that's the reward. That is what drives you. The quest for that drives you to do the deed, to get the sugar in you. That's all your brain cares about. And the reason, and this is something that I never hear and I've never heard, and it's so obvious and it's just like right there. Why? Why can't people stop eating sugar? It's so much more addictive than anything else. And yet, in our stupid society, they don't even think of it. They call food, well, it's food addiction. How can you be addicted to food? You need food to live. Well, it's not food addiction. Nobody's addicted to food. You're addicted to sugar, carbohydrate, glucose, fructose. You're addicted to sugar. You're not addicted to ribeyes and broccoli. You're addicted to sugar. Nobody is selling their mother's jewelry to go out and buy a ribeye. You know what I mean? You're addicted to sugar, not food. Sugar isn't really food at all. It's temporary fuel, is what it is. The food, where the nutrients are, the real nutrients, are the meat and the fat. So here you are, you're negotiating with yourself. You get the sugar, and the reason, and this is I keep talking about this, and I think more and more people are beginning to understand what I'm talking about. Let me take a swig of my water here. We burn two different kinds of fuel. We pretty well accept the fact that we're supposed to default to burning fat as the primary fuel, with sugar as a stand-in when there's a famine. We don't ever have famines anymore because we have food everywhere. I'm not talking about the poor countries and the starving children. I'm talking about the Western society in general. But what we've done to ourselves is we have become a sugar-burning species. Because of the sheer abundance of sugar, the profitability of these products to the companies that make it, the addictiveness of these products, which they hype up and make them more and more addictive, so we get harder, sucked in harder and harder. We very rarely have an opportunity to burn any fat. Now, if you look at the human body, Kerry, this is the interesting part, and the part I don't hear too often, and yet everybody should know this. You can store a year's worth of fat on your body, a year's worth of fuel. You can store millions of calories. You weigh 300 pounds, my friend. You got enough fuel on you to live for a year. You can only store 1 day's worth of sugar. You can store 1 day's worth of glycogen in your liver and your muscles. 1 day. If you're forced to live on sugar, you are living constantly 1 day away from death. That's just a fact. If there was no fat to burn or no other fuel to burn, you are 1 day away from dying. Now, if you were in charge of this animal and you saw this animal was beginning to run a little low on sugar, knowing that by this time tomorrow, without more sugar, they'd be dead, what would your top priority be right now?
Hoarding sugar.
Finding sugar. That's where we live. That's where we live constantly. The average human being in Western civilization is living less than 1 day, or thinking or panicking over the fact that they're living less than a day from death. And the reason that these cravings are so strong is it's the last gasp of survival action. Forgetting about the fact that we're carrying a year's worth of energy all around our metal, but we can't get to that. We can't use that. And the reason we can't use it is because we eat so much sugar. And because we've been living on sugar, our insulin is always high. And that insulin signals the fat cells to shut the doors. It puts them in fat storage mode. So not only because we've decided that it's better for us to live on sugar than fat, we've screwed up everything. And it turned against us. And it has us on a constant sugar hunt. And if you don't believe that, go into any workplace and watch the rush at 10 o'clock in the morning as they're heading for the coffee shop to get the pastries. They just had breakfast, a breakfast of pure sugar 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
Now you become carnivore. Your insulin goes down. You don't need any sugar. I haven't had any sugar for 2 years and 4 months. And yet, somehow, miraculously, not only am I here, but I'm sharper than I've ever been in my life at my age, 77 and a half. I have more energy than I've ever had in my life. I'm in better shape, and I have no illnesses and take no drugs. Yet, I'm on a deadly heart attack-causing diet because I eat so much meat. And I don't eat all those healthy fruits and vegetables. There's a reason, and I talk about this a lot because they don't get it yet. And if people start to think about the fact that as long as they stay a sugar burner, and the only way that I know of right now for an addict, now not everybody is a stone addict. Some people can moderate. Some people can open a box of cookies, eat one cookie, put the box away and forget it's there. Most of us can't. You can't take diet advice from somebody that isn't a stone carbohydrate addict because That's like an alcoholic can't take advice from me. I don't drink. I don't like to drink. I never did. So I can look at an alcoholic and say, well, I don't know why you can't stop drinking. I don't have a problem. Well, I go, well, double barrel middle finger to you. You do have a problem and that I don't have, so I could turn those tables on you. People don't understand how it works. But think about yourself, burning sugar, one day away from death, always, your brain always afraid to let those sugar reserves, because you can only store 1 day's worth. A lot of people don't know that. 1 day and you're dead. So the only way, and this is what I discovered, and when I finally started carnivore after keto, low carb, low carb, low carb, since Atkins back in 1973. None of it worked because none of it addressed my addiction. I was always eating some carbs. My addiction was happy. It got a little bit of sugar. It didn't need, it knew there was sugar around, so it never panicked that hard. And I learned that really, if you're a helpless carb addict, which most people find out they are, carnivore, total abstinence from sugar is the only way to really fix it. You can string it along, but to really fix it, and you fixed it, and I fixed it, and so many other people in our community have fixed it. I see their names going by in the chats all over the place. Is abstinence, and I drive subscribers away. They get tired of hearing it. I don't care. It is the path, and it's not an easy one to talk yourself into. Because think about what you have to think about. All your life, your whole life's revolved around food. You're going out partying. You go out. Well, honey, what's for dinner? I don't know. Have them deliver a couple of pizzas. I mean, it's just the way we live. Go to a football game, drinking beer, eating pizza, barbecue with all that sweet sauce. I mean, it's our entertainment. It's our enjoyment. We get our pleasure from it. All of a sudden, you're telling somebody, okay, here's the deal now. Here's the rules. Number one, for the rest of your entire life, you will never, ever eat another slice of pizza, piece of bread, piece of cake, donut, piece of candy, sugar in your coffee, and you can go down a list a mile long, and the person looking at you, their jaw just keeps dropping.
Right.
Are you friggin' crazy? You want to get rid of the carb addiction? No, I actually don't. I don't want to get rid of the carb addiction. I love that shit. You expect me to do that? Well, imagine how an alcoholic feels when he finally makes the decision to quit alcohol. What's the first thing they tell him? A drop of alcohol will never cross your lips again. Well, if you think that's horrifying, tell somebody that all the foods they love are never going to cross their lips. But yet, if you start carnivore without accepting that as fact, you may lose some weight, but you'll probably, within a year or two, put it all back on again. You may heal a few things, but within a year or two, it'll all be. But you'll never solve the problem permanently until you make that decision. And it's not just a decision, I found out, of what to eat or not eat. It's a lifestyle change. You have to change everything. You'll lose half your friends because all they want to do is party. For me, it was easier because I'm an old guy, live by myself. I have no friends and no social life, and nobody brings, I decide what comes into my house, and there's not a gram of carbs anywhere in my house, and so there's no temptation. And I know how hard people who live with people that are always stuffing their face in front of them, how much they struggle. So it's not an easy thing to do.
Right.
It requires a complete lifestyle change for most. That's how screwed up our current lifestyle is. We have to start living like cavemen, eating fewer meals a day, maybe skipping a meal some days, simplifying things. It's very hard to do. That's the bad news. Okay? That's the bad news. Somehow people manage to do it. You've done it. I've done it. But the good news is that all that stuff you thought you needed and all that stuff you were convinced you couldn't live without, all those draconian sounding changes that this lunatic here is spouting in front of you, after about maybe as little as 30 days, you can't understand why you thought it was going to be so hard to give that stuff up. After 60, 90 days, you go, holy cow, that ribeye tastes so much better than that bullshit ever tasted.
Yeah.
And your whole physiology, again, it's your brain that's in charge. And the reason that happens to you when you finally abstain from the sugar, and my method is like a lot of these people who talk about priming. My method for the first 30 days is never stop eating. And I joke about it. I say, isn't it a great diet where you eat until you can't move, and then you eat some more? You know, most diets tell you don't eat. I'm telling you, if you got to eat 10,000 calories a day, just eat meat, though. Meat and fat. Eat so much you can't even stand the thought of food. Because that way you will overpower the power of your addictions. Because nobody can eat when after they've eaten that much food, they can't think. And if you ever start to even get a little bit hungry, it starts cramming food in your mouth again. Bacon, eggs, hard-boiled eggs, steak, anything. And that'll last a few weeks, 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden you'll taper off eating, but you won't get the cravings as hard. You'll be able to control them. And after a month or two, you'll find that you're actually changing your whole outlook on, and your whole relationship with food is changing, and you stop being a slave to it. And that happens because, and it's a well-known fact, and any psychologist will tell you, that to make or break a habit, not an addiction, but a habit, it's about a 30-day process. You know, if you always put your left shoe on first, if you start putting your right shoe on first, after about 30 days, you'll be doing it mindlessly. It'll sink in. Well, it takes about 30 days for the fact that you're not going to die tomorrow if you don't get sugar. It takes about 30 days for that to actually sink into your subconscious. After a lifetime of being on that we're dying tomorrow teetering edge and panicking and trying to find sugar so you don't die tomorrow, it takes about 30 days for your brain to learn somehow we're still alive and we didn't have any sugar. And once you hit that point, life is great.
Yeah.
Nobody gets there. Most people fail within the first week on a carnivore or anything like this because they can't even give it that much time, and they fail because they can't get all the old diet mindsets out of their mind.
Right. That's what my advice for people is, if you're going to do it for 30 days and do it strict. I get so many people that are like, I tried carnivore, and then I talk to them more, and they're like, well, I was 95% carnivore. I still had a little bit of berries here, a little bit of that there. And then you don't get over the sugar addiction. I ended up doing it out of just pure desperation because I was so sick for so long. I'm like, I'm dying here if I don't change something. It's kind of sad that some people will do it out of inspiration. Some people do it out of desperation, but a lot of people with desperation, by the point they're desperate enough, it may be too late, or they have something that's irreversible. Like our buddy Kent Carnivore, Lee Copus, he said he'd still have his colon right now had he found this earlier. There's people out there that are going to wait so long.
He's such a sweet guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah, and it's such a shame what happened to him, but he's doing a lot of good, and he's in a position to tell this story from a perspective that you can't not believe the guy.
Right.
I mean, you can imagine anything, but he can actually tell you.
You got the proof of
what's coming out.
When he talks about his bag, and when he eats vegetables and looks at it, just fills it up, and then he eats meat, and there's like nothing in there.
Nothing in there. Yeah,
argue with that.
You can't argue with that, and there's so much misinformation, and everybody knows. And if I hear that, I swear sometimes the next person that tells me, well, that's not right. You just need to eat everything in moderation. And, I want to smack them, The people are sheep. They buy into anything, and their addiction makes it easier because any excuse that allows them to keep doing what they're doing, they want to hear. And people hear what they want to hear. They don't want to hear something that sounds unpleasant to them. They want to hear what they want to hear.
What can support their addiction, right? The thing that's interesting too is when you have that addiction, that sugar addiction, you have that brain fog, and your digestive system is working all day long to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, dessert, beer, all of that stuff. So you're in this constant state of fatigue and brain fog. It makes it even that much harder to kind of make those decisions and get out of it. It's almost like it's part of the plan or something. People are just in this brain fog stupor, and they're come home and they lay down on the couch and they plop down and they just do the bare minimum, and they're just barely getting through life because they don't have the energy to do it. So it's like another part of it, overcoming, just getting the energy to wrap your brain around what's going on. So much of the things you're talking about now, to you, Mitch, it's like, this stuff is so clear. To me, it's like, this is so clear. But then I think back, man, when I was on all of this,
yeah, I love your bucket of drugs, man. I
was so stupid. Like, I just kept taking these things for, like, some of these I took for 10 years and I never got better. So I was like, why do I keep taking it? But I think a big part of it was I was just in that brain fog slump. Like, I don't know what to do. Give me whatever the doctor says, I'll just do it kind of thing. And getting out of that slump's a hard thing. I've been reading a lot more books lately. This was one, Pure, White, and Deadly. And then another one, I read this one a while ago. I don't know if you read this one, Mitch. It's called Sugar Blues. And I just want to read this real quick. It's a prime ingredient in countless substances, from cereal to soup, from cola to coffee, consumed at the rate of 100 pounds for every American every year. It's as addictive as nicotine and as poisonous. It is sugar. That's a book called Sugar Blues, and it was written in 1974. 50 years ago.
Yeah, how long ago did Yudkin write his book in England? The one that Ansel Keys, yeah, that's Yudkin's book.
Yep, 50 years ago.
Yeah, he wrote that book, and Ansel Keys ruined the poor guy's life, trashed his career, canceled him. So that his theory that it's cholesterol that's causing all the problem, and fat and saturated fat and red meat are what's killing us, and sugar is fine. Well, guess who paid for all that Ansel Keys research and things? It was the sugar companies supported him.
Right.
It's all politics. And any of you people on a day like today who don't think politics is the dirtiest human business on the planet Earth, open your eyes.
Right. Well, you want to sell a ton of sugar, you just look at everything that's going on. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I used to believe that garbage. Oh, I better eat something.
John Harvey Kellogg.
From the cereal company.
He coined that phrase, yeah.
Of course it's from the cereal company. That's going to make them a lot of money if you say that. The other thing you can do to sell a bunch of sugar is just demonize meat and say meat's going to give you a heart attack. Meat's going to clog your arteries. I'm going to go eat a salad for 2 days, and then I'm eating a bunch of junk, sugar, processed, standard American diet food again. It's everything you look at. It's just every incentive is profit to make more money. People are just going to get sicker and sicker.
Yeah, and most of us know it. And, it's nice to see it being brought a little more to national attention, but I don't think people are going to be all that up in arms about it. Kennedy's been harping on this stuff for years, and everybody's just treated him like a kook, and they're going to continue because naturally they don't want to hear that they can't have all this delicious tasting addictive food. They don't want that stuff taken away from them. So many people, if you say, well, look what it's doing to you, look what it's doing this, it's doing that, they say, I don't care. I'll pay that price because I get too much enjoyment out of it. That's the logic of a drug addict. That shit's going to kill you. I don't care. It just feels so good. I don't want to stop. Alcoholic. Look what it's doing to your liver. Well, my liver's still working, so as long as my liver's still working, I'm going to keep drinking because they have to have it. And the sugar, it's not just as addictive as nicotine. It's so many times more addictive because of the survival role that it played in our evolution, made it.
And unlike every other addiction in the world, when you're addicted to cigarettes or cocaine or beer and you want to quit, people try to help you. But with sugar, you're just a weird one. We're not going to
Yeah,
help you with
we
that.
don't recognize it as an addiction. You don't see it talked about when people are talking about addicts. All you hear is alcohol, drug addiction. You hear gambling addiction. You hear all kind of internet, social media addiction. You hear all kind, but you never hear them talk about sugar addiction. They may talk about food addiction, but that's not what we're talking about. You may as well be talking about air addiction. Well, you can't be addicted to it because you need it. How can you be addicted? How can you be an addict to something? Well, nonsense. It's not food we're addicted to. It's sugar. It's a drug. It's a substance. It's not all food. Because we certainly eat enough food without eating sugar. You know what I mean? And I don't feel addicted to the food. In fact, if anything, most of the time I kind of put my meals off because I'm not really hungry yet. That's not how an addict acts.
Right. Yeah, I'm not jonesing like I was for sugar.
Exactly.
Like I gotta have it. I love a good ribeye, but
Yeah.
it's more of an appreciation or sustenance. There's a point in carnivore for me. I've talked about this on my channel before where like the switch went off where I'm no longer eating for entertainment or pleasure. It's just for energy. And
Yeah.
you get
It's
over
like
that sugar addiction and that happens. It's pretty incredible.
it's like going to the gas station to fill up your car.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a fun thing to do, but but the food tastes great though, and you do enjoy the meal. But when you're done eating, you put the fork down and you don't just want to keep eating until you can't move. But that's what
Right.
sugar, and there's a reason for that too. I mean, I hope I'm not boring everybody rehashing all this stuff, but I think it's fascinating to understand where all these behaviors came from. I think it's fascinating. And there's a reason why. There's a reason why fat and meat trigger the satiety hormones that tell us, okay, we've had enough. But sugar doesn't. Sugar triggers another hormone that makes you even hungrier. And that's because back when the cavemen, back 100,000, a million years ago, were scrounging for these very rare and hard to find carbohydrates, sour fruits and roots and tubers, it was hard to find. You're starving to death. You're right in the middle of a famine. The hunt failed. You got nothing to eat. You come across some carbs. You start eating them. Don't leave them. Eat them all. Keep hunting. Binge. Gorge. Because you might not find some. So get as much of it as you can. That's the urge. That's the normal urge. That's why when you got a plate of pasta in front of you, you can't stop eating it. But you got a ribeye in front of you, you get through so many ounces of that and you go, oh God, I feel that's great, but I don't want any more. There was a reason. The reason is the same reason a bear goes nuts before hibernation and tries to cram down as much honey and sugar as it can, because we turn that to fat. The fat gets stored as your regular fuel. And if you don't have high insulin, which a bear wouldn't have because that's a normal behavior for them, then you can meter that fat out over the winter and power your body. But humans can't do that because their insulin levels are so chronically high all the time that their fat cells are in storage mode and don't give up the fat. And people dieting, they go on these diets that not only do they limit the energy intake, but they go to the gym and work their asses off. And then they're torturing themselves and starving themselves. They're not doing a thing to correct their insulin levels. They still can't burn off their body fat, so they're not losing much weight, which is very disheartening. And the one thing they all seem to accomplish that they don't realize is they permanently damage their metabolism and its settings, especially those people on like The Biggest Loser. They've ruined themselves for life. Much like so many of these people today that are taking Ozempic have no idea what they're going to be in for in the future. We don't know. How could we know? Nobody's been doing it long enough. It's nuts, Kerry. It's nuts. And here we are. I always joke. I call us a merry little band of lunatics. There aren't very many of us, but damn, if we must not be doing something right.
Right.
Yeah.
The amount of stories I've been hearing doing this documentary, interviewing people on YouTube, it's insane. And over the last couple of weeks, I can't wrap my brain around it. And some of these stories you hear over and over and over again, just incredible healing, not just weight loss, but overcoming diabetes, fatty liver disease, mental health, depression, anxiety, just rampant right now. It's so much healing across the board. It's
Oh,
hard
no
not
doubt
to
about it.
be excited about it.
What time is it? Oh, man, how do we do this? We've been at this for an hour and 40 minutes.
Right?
Yeah.
Hey, we got Bill Knott in the chat. I love carb.
Hey,
Crispy and really big steaks.
Hiya, Bill. I've never met Bill. I've never even talked to him or chat to him. Good to see you, Bill. I've been following your little journey. One of my good friends just moved up to Wasilla. Jonathan, he has a family, Bags Packed Family. He has a pretty big YouTube channel. And he's up in Wasilla. And I keep telling him, reach out to Bill Knott. Reach out to Bill Knott up there. So if you ever hear from and I don't even know offhand his last name, but every Wednesday night, we've become friends because he's been starting Carnivore, and he's been following me since I started my channel when he was traveling all over Indonesia with his family and making YouTube videos. He's become a friend, and every Wednesday night we have a video chat for a couple hours. We both sit out on our back porches, we puff on some cigars, and we talk about YouTube, we talk about life in general, politics, and he's become quite a good friend. And he's up in Wasilla. He just got there a few months ago. Bought a house up there and has his family up there. And he's trying to figure out what direction he wants to go with his YouTube adventures and everything else. So
We got to get a big meetup, a Wasilla, Alaska carnivore meetup with Bill Knott, Mitch, your friend. That'd be awesome.
yeah, I'd love to go up there and see him in the summertime, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, not this time of year.
Yeah. How are the air connections up that way? No big deal. No problem to get there.
It wasn't too bad. I flew out of Chicago, just direct. Didn't have to, no connections, just straight there to Anchorage.
Wow, I'm looking at all the chatting going on. How the hell did you pick that one out of there with all these chats?
Every time Bill enters the chat, everyone goes nuts. It says, Bill's here, Bill's here. So it stuck out.
Oh,
Here's
cool.
another good chat I found earlier that we missed, Mitch, from Dr. Nelson.
Oh, Nelson, my buddy. I got here just in time to hear squeezing gonads. Yeah. He's a trip, isn't he? He's a great guy.
Yeah, he is awesome.
Yeah.
Dr. Nelson.
Dr.
He's got
Nelson.
an incredible story of his own.
Oh, man, you see the pictures?
Yeah. There he is, Dr. Nelson.
Oh, I mean, look
when he
at.
sent me that picture, I'm like, you could have fit two of you in those pants before, one in each pant leg.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. See, you come into my place, and you never know what you're going to see. You got to see a real live kidney stone tonight.
Right? I got nothing to show you here. What do I got?
Ah, you got pills, man, old pills. Holy cow, I've never seen anything like that.
All the pills.
Wow.
I can't believe I was on all those.
So what's new with you, man? I've been doing so much talking here. How's everything? How's life treating you? Pretty good?
Everything's going good. Yeah, we're trying to wrap up filming for this documentary. We filmed 32 people so far, including Bill Knott in the chat. Next, in like 2 weeks, I'm going to Australia. There's a conference there.
Cow.
Yeah, I've never traveled that far before. I'm not looking forward to the flight, but we're going to be filming Limitless Lindy, who was 700 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to be filming, we already filmed Dr. Chafee, but we're going to be filming him a little bit more, doing some everyday activities like flipping some steaks on a burger, walking, exercising. We got the talking head interview, but we need some good B-roll.
Well, that's good. Well, listen, if you're going to be in Australia, you may as well see him. I mean, it's a long way to go and not see him.
Exactly.
That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yep. And we're also filming Dave Mack.
Oh, no kidding, no kidding.
Yeah, I think he's interviewed 700 carnivores now or
He's
something like that.
he interviewed me, and he liked the interview with me because he didn't have to talk very much.
Nice. Yeah, he's great. He's got his own good story. And one thing I'm worried with the documentary is people are, no matter what, people are going to say, oh, we have 32 people right now. It's 32 anecdotes. And then I think it'll be interesting to show Dave's perspective and touch on the fact that he's interviewed 700 people. And he's got some incredible stories of healing from people that he's talked to, people with MS, people like regaining their vision on carnivore because the inflammation goes down.
Oh yeah.
He's got some remarkable stories he's shared. So I'm looking forward to interviewing him too.
Well, you ought to be getting close to wrapping it up pretty soon.
We are, yeah.
And
You know, I get that question all the time, and I get it. People are like, why is it taking so long? But the premise is to follow people for a year. So Bill in the chat, he hit a year. We were there just a couple months ago filming him 1 year later in Alaska. So he's down 270 pounds, which is just incredible. He's outside in Alaska for the first time. But we've got a couple more people that haven't hit that year yet. One of them is Mimi. She had full-blown Parkinson's, stroke, a blood infection that nearly killed her. So we filmed her, and she's coming up on a year early next year. So we're hoping to wrap things up. And then in January, we're filming Tammy Peterson at Jordan Peterson's house in Arizona.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so that's kind of
Wow.
crazy. She was watching my YouTube channel, and she invited me on her podcast a couple months ago. And I asked her, please, can we share your story in our documentary? Because she's been doing carnivore for over 5 years. She had stage 4 terminal cancer, and she's been in remission for years from her cancer. And just Jordan Peterson, Michaela Peterson, Tammy Peterson, they've inspired so many people to do carnivore. So
Oh, no doubt.
She said yes, so we're going to be out in Arizona. That's in January. So we're wrapping up things early next year and then hoping to finish editing and have it all finished in the summer of next year for the main documentary. But then we're doing a series afterwards because there's been so many stories coming out of the woodwork. Just too many to put in the documentary. So we're going to do a whole episode on type 2 diabetes, a whole episode on mental health, a whole episode on women's health, fertility issues, aging. So, well, it'll probably go on forever by the time we do this series because there's so many new stories keep coming out. I'm like, we got to include that one. This one's crazy. And the last couple of months, there's been so many stories coming out of the woodwork. So we'll probably end up doing this forever. But the main documentary we hope to release summer of next year.
Have you ever met Vinny Tortorich?
I haven't. I hope to, though. I've talked to several people that are close friends with him. He's done some amazing stuff.
He'd be a good guy to know because he's got contacts, especially when it comes to distribution.
Yeah.
And he's in this field. He's a cool guy. He's kind of a little eccentric.
He's done some great documentaries too. I've watched several of his.
That one the documentary. He's got a new one coming out called Dirty Keto.
Nice.
And yeah, he's a cool guy, but he's a Hollywood type, and he makes films. And I don't know if you had talked to him or not. Might not be a bad guy to get to know. I mean, you're becoming the darling of all the stars now. So
yeah, I definitely would love to talk to him. We have a couple of 2 consultants that we worked with that were both carnivores that have done some films. So we were partnering with some good people, and we're actually talking to this big documentary. They produced several documentaries, this other consultant. So we're bringing in people to help because the big part of the documentary is the distribution and the marketing and all of that afterwards.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
More work than just filming it. And just filming it has been a lot of fun. I'm not complaining. It's been great, but it's a lot of work.
Oh, it's a ton of work. Get yourself an interview on Rogan.
That would be I have a list of everything I wanted,
Yeah.
and that's at the top of the list because that'll be game over then. We'll get the word out for sure with him.
Did you see the Elon Musk interview from yesterday? Did
I
you
did,
hear
and
all the Did you hear all the meat talk and the diet talk? It
of
was
course.
so gratifying to hear that at that level.
So
Those
I don't know if
guys.
you saw this, but Elon Musk was on with Jordan Peterson. I don't know, a month or two ago, and Jordan said to Elon Musk, "You should try carnivore for your back pain; it'll help." And he's like, "No, I'm serious." And Elon he's like, okay, whatever. He kind of waved it off. But then on Rogan yesterday or whenever that came out, uh, Elon said to Rogan, yeah, I pretty much eat carnivore for breakfast every day. I have eggs and meat and nothing else. And he's like, I feel so much better. So
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
he's slowly getting into carnivore now. I think maybe from talking to Jordan Peterson earlier.
Well, Rogan, he goes on and off and on and off and on and off. I'm, and he doesn't really talk about it that much unless he's talking to Sean Baker or one of those guys.
Yeah.
But when
The
you
thing-
start hearing, and I looked at Elon Musk and he was getting so out of shape for a young
Yeah.
man like that. He had a big gut on him, and I'm saying to myself, "Oh, I just God, I would love to be alone in a room for 2 hours with that guy. I'd fix him. I'd add
I was
30
just gonna
years to his
say,
life.
he's such a smart guy. You could spend an hour with him, and I bet you he'd be carnivore for the rest of his life. If you
Yeah,
just
he
talk to him.
understands.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Joe Rogan, he's talked about carnivore. He's passionate about carnivore. If Joe Rogan's listening right now, this is my plea. The thing with Joe is he usually talks about carnivore out of the context of a weight loss diet, which of course you can lose a lot of weight on carnivore. What I would love to talk to Joe Rogan about is all of this crazy healing we're witnessing. This woman's got Parkinson's, people reversing type 2 diabetes, people overcoming major depressive disorders they've had for 30 years. They go carnivore, and within 3 weeks it goes away. That's what I'd love to hear Joe Rogan talk about more. I haven't really heard him talk about that too much. Every time he gets into carnivore, it's usually, it's about losing weight and feeling better and fixing your metabolic health, but it doesn't usually talk about all those other things you can heal.
That message is terrifying to drug companies. They spend fortunes so that message won't get out with propaganda. They laugh and ridicule the idea that food could actually do anything and cure anything. What a joke, they say.
Right.
You need chemicals, you need drugs. It's folly. Those people are witch doctors, the people that, naturopaths, are people that they would diminish them. And that's part of the propaganda, to stomp down the messaging. You don't want to come out. But that's the truth. You wouldn't need any of these friggin' drugs. Now, it doesn't mean there aren't some good drugs, and I'll testify to that when I was having that kidney stone. We'll both testify that there are times when doctors are necessary. When I had that huge blood clot in my brain there and had to have my skull cut open to get, I need doctors. But to me, that's more of a plumber or a mechanic. Stay away from my physiology. You're not smart enough.
I had the privilege of interviewing Dr. Kevin Stock the other day. He's a dentist, and he's been
I know.
carnivore.
Yeah, I recognize that name.
We started talking, and it really opened my eyes thinking about this more. I want to do a whole video on this. I could go down a rabbit hole for hours, but when you really think about the amount of money wasted due to the standard American diet, we already talked about it. You just did. Like, you would only need to go to an emergency room for a kidney stone, or if you broke a leg or something like that. All of this for years and years would have all been avoided. So all of that money saved. But then Dr. Stock, dentist Stock, was telling me there would be no cavities. There'd be no braces. All of our jaw lines, everything changed when agriculture came about. I said, would we even need you as a dentist? And he's like, other than if you had an emergency where you chipped your tooth, there'd be no dental work. There'd be none of it. It'd be completely, and every other species of animal, right? None of them ever have this issue.
Yeah.
It's not just sugar either, which I guess maybe a lot of people know this, but that kind of opened my eyes. In my brain, I'm always like, cavities, toothache, all that was sugar. But he's like, no, when you eat carbohydrates, mixes in with your saliva, it turns acidic and it causes cavities. It's grains and all of that other carbs that you're eating as well, not just sugar. But when you really start to wrap your brain around the massive cost of the standard American diet, all of this healthcare and dental work, all this stuff we wouldn't need, it's really, really eye-opening.
Yeah, what will you do with all that money? And we would put half the country out of work, and
Right.
that's why there's so much pushback. They don't want to go out quietly. Oh well, guess I'm not needed anymore. No, they're not going away. They're going to
Right.
fight tooth and nail, use every dirty trick in the book to keep what they've got going. So it's a multifaceted battle, a lot of dynamics, and it has to come from the bottom up. It's not going to come from the top down. It has to come from people one by one discovering this on their own, trying it, seeing that it works. And even
Right.
most of the people we tell don't believe it. So it's
Right.
going to be a while, but that's what else are we going to do? It took 100 years to make this problem. It's not going to happen. It's not going to get fixed in 6 months.
Yeah. That's why our documentary, it's Healing Humanity. It's such a big name. Like, how dare you? How are you going to heal humanity? And Dr. Kiltz said this when I interviewed him. He's like, oh, it's really easy. You just have to heal yourself. Every individual, you got to do it. Grassroots, you heal yourself. That's all you do. That's all you got to
It's
worry
true.
about.
It's true. That's true. Do you think we've done enough here? Do you think the people are finally saying, okay, I had enough of these two guys. It's time for me to go watch
I think-
election returns? Because can you imagine we're competing with because the polls are closed in some places. They're actually starting to do it. Not that I want to watch. I don't want to watch. I don't
Right.
want to know. I just tell me when it's all over because the drama.
Hopefully it'll be over soon, but who knows? I guess we'll find out. It's probably not going to be. It'll probably be a couple days or something.
Ah,
but maybe
God, who knows? Who knows? Who knows?
Right.
And it's so. And if you watched that Elon Musk thing last night, it would have scared the shit out of the average person.
Yeah. No, I heard what he said.
Yeah, basically what he said is this may be the last election that this country ever sees, where the only thing isn't just them having a primary
Right.
with no opposition, but that's how.
And Joe, by the way, Joe fervently agreed with that statement as well.
Well, without losing half of our subscribers, although I have found most of my followers and good friends, and most carnivores indeed have a lot of common sense,
Right.
and they're realists, and that kind of tells you which way they lean. But I don't. I honor everybody's right to believe what they want to believe. I just wish some of them would think twice before they believe some of the stuff that makes absolutely no sense in any reality. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's not
Right.
our place to tell them.
Yep.
But
I'm
thanks,
with you.
Kerry. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you,
And-
Mitch. I really appreciate it. Yeah, anyone watching, go check out Mitch too. The live streams, I got a link in the description below. Love your channel, Mitch. I'm going to continue
Thank you,
watching
Kerry.
you.
Yeah, me
We'll
too.
do another one.
We have to, man. We always promise we will, and then it goes away. But a month or two, couple months,
Yeah.
I'll shoot you a text or so, or I'll call you on the. I do have your phone number. I'll call you on the phone, see how you're doing, and
Call me, text me anytime. I'd love to hear from you.
yeah, that's great. And if there's anything I can ever do for you to help you out, in your efforts, you let me know.
I'll let you know if I get a kidney stone. I might need some of that medicine from you, but all the kidney stone talk is getting me nervous because I just dread the thought of ever getting one again. I don't live in fear for much, but every now and then, if anything goes a little weird, I worry about that. But no, I should be fine.
No, you'll be okay. You're not going to be forming any new kidney stones, I don't think, not being on carnivore. You're doing
Right.
great. You're doing great. I had a ball, man. Been a lot
Thank
of
you,
fun.
Mitch. Me too. Have a good
All
night.
right.
Thank you, everyone, for joining
You
us.
too. Good night, everybody.
See you guys. Oh, there we